Often the gospel is perceived in the minds of evangelicals broadly that we receive something from God. For instance, some accounts of the gospel will say that we receive the imputed righteousness of Jesus Christ as a free gift by faith. We are justified in God's sight. That's the gospel. Others would say, well, we were once alienated from God and children of wrath, but we have received adoption. We have been received into the number. We are no longer alienated from God, but we are the children of God. We've been adopted by faith in Jesus Christ. Others would say, I was once a slave to sin. I was once ensnared by its power, and I have been freed or liberated from the power of sin by faith in Jesus Christ. I have been sanctified. And those approaches to trying to understand the gospel are useful in a certain way, but they don't really penetrate to the heart of what the gospel is. All of those three things, justification, sanctification, or adoption, have in common something sinners receive from God. But the gospel is deeper than that, more basic than that. For instance, when Paul in 1 Corinthians 15, verses 1 through 4, talks about the gospel, he says that the gospel is something that he has received from God and that he makes known in his apostolic preaching. And what is the content of the gospel according to Paul? He says this. He says, of first importance is that Jesus Christ died according to the Scriptures, that he was buried, and that on the third day he was raised again according to the Scriptures. The gospel, first and foremost, in Paul's language, of first importance, is Jesus Christ, crucified, dead, buried, and raised. The life, death, resurrection of Jesus Christ is at the core of what the gospel is all about. Rather than thinking about the gospel first and foremost in terms of benefits received by sinners, Scripture pushes us to understand the gospel as related to the benefactor of redemption, Jesus Christ, crucified and raised. Paul puts it a little bit differently in Romans 1, verses 3 and 4. He says that his gospel is promised beforehand by God in the Old Testament Scriptures concerning God's Son. So that not just in the New Testament, but rooted in the Old Testament itself, in promise form, is the gospel of God's Son, Jesus Christ. And therefore, another way to put this, what is the gospel? It is a Son-centered gospel, a Son-focused gospel. It is a gospel that declares the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. In fact, in verses 3 and 4 of Romans 1, after saying this gospel is promised beforehand and rooted in the Old Testament, Paul says that concerning this Son, Jesus Christ, he was born according to the flesh from the seed of David. He was declared to be the Son of God with power by his resurrection from the dead according to the Spirit of holiness. So that Jesus Christ, crucified, raised, descended from David according to the flesh, declared the Son of God in power by his resurrection, that distills the very essence of the gospel. And the travesty about it is that we can so quickly want to turn toward benefits received in the gospel. And there are benefits. And I want to talk about those in due course. But first and foremost, the gospel is about the benefactor of redemption who has been crucified and raised. And if we miss that, we miss the heart and soul of the gospel itself.